Just because they want money. I have seen the might, I have seen them fight. Even some go crazy. Greediness is curse and greedy men will boast. Greediness will surely cut the throats. Greediness, greediness, greediness is killing the world today. If I could find a solution, I'll surely cause a revolution. I will wipe out greediness, wipe out greediness, wipe out greediness off of the land. Hey!
Get alive, get alive!
I have seen rich men, I have seen poor men. Every man have their problems, but I seldom see rich men are happy, even though they have money. Greediness corrupts, and I will always bet greedy men will even steal to get. Greediness, greediness, greediness is killing the whole world today. If I could find a solution, I'll surely cause a revolution. I will wipe out greediness, wipe out greediness, wipe out greediness off of the land. Hey! If we stop and think, maybe we will see. It don't pay to be greedy. But as our minds sing, we are blind to see. We fall in misery. Some of people steal, others even kill. Greediness is really killing me. Greediness, greediness, greediness is killing the whole world today. If I could find a solution, I'll surely cause the revolution. I will wipe out greediness, wipe out greediness, wipe out greediness off of the land. Hey!
Yes, song of the man himself, the man contender. That one is called Greediness. And it's a beautiful Wednesday afternoon here in the Federation of St. Kitts Nevis. I'm DJ Marisha coming to you live and direct from my bunker here in the Republic of St. Paul, St. Kitts. For those of you who may be scrolling the web and bump into us and wondering what this podcast is all about, let me just drop an ad here that you will know what this podcast is all about.
Wednesday evenings are heating up. Log on to DJ Marishaw's Facebook Live broadcast every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. It's a frank and a candid exploration into the social, cultural, political, and economic issues affecting our federation. And just in case you missed it, you can also catch the broadcast on his YouTube channel, DJ Marishaw. Subscribe to the channel on YouTube and smash that bell. You will be notified whenever he goes live. DJ Marishaw, every Wednesday evening, Facebook 6 to 8 p.m. or thereafter on his YouTube channel, DJ Marishaw. Log on.
Yes, you heard it right. That's the DJ Maui Show podcast each and every Wednesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. right here and the DJ Maui Show experience. Now let's take a quick listen to an ad here of the awareness march coming up this coming Friday, September 26th, downtown Bastia, starting there at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal.
Let's unite and stand up for right.
It's the Citizens Empowerment Coalition Awareness March on Friday, 26 September. Citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, it's your time. Boots on the streets are required. Let's save our country. Get your placards ready. Gathering at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal on the Bay Road from 2:30 with the march starting from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. For more information, call 660-0195. So, get ready to hit the streets on Friday, 26 September from 2:30 at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal and be a part of the Citizens Empowerment Coalition Awareness March.
Yes, citizens and residents alike in our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, all are welcome, no matter what party you support. You come out and represent yourself, represent your country, show your concern for your country, and be a part of this historic march this coming Friday, September 26th. Now, let me take a quick listen of our icon here, the man himself, Dr. Alexander, giving his prediction of the DJ.
DJ Marisha, I don't want you guys to take your eyes off him. Remember, he's been around for some time. Let's go back to COVID and lockdowns. The gentleman came in, was locked down in quarantine, and then realized the total hypocrisy, tyranny, and oppression of the then administration during our most horriblest time. Spoke out. Not only spoke out, became an activist. And then you know what he did? Organize and centralize. And he never stopped organizing and centralizing until Timothy was gone. I don't even want to talk about the involvement he had before and the Douglas administration and the Harris. We ain't gonna talk about that. I'm just talking that during COVID, that man, both on this front, locally, and in the US, waged war against tyranny and oppression. One simple man. A DJ, as he calls himself. He never called himself an engineer or anything else. Just a DJ. Because he understands the power of voice. And not just voice, autonomous, independent, honest, transparent voice always wins in the end. So it could be persons with unlimited power and unlimited money. He somehow always becomes the David against the Goliaths. Be careful with him. Be kind to him. Watch him. Because trust me, he's going to triumph in the end again.
Yes, my good people, and as we get started here on a beautiful Wednesday afternoon, I have two esteemed gentlemen of our beloved Federation, gentlemen in the likes of Dr. Garfield Alexander and our, I don't have to call him ambassador, teacher, but the man I'm going to call him this evening, Dr. Ira McMahon. Could you introduce yourself? Citizen Ira McMahon. Could you give a quick synopsis of who is Ira McMahon, please?
Like I said, a citizen, right? Very concerned about what happens in my country and very vocal about it as well. There are people who are concerned but not vocal, but I think I'm very vocal about it. Not to your extent. I know how militant and activist you are, but I certainly pay attention to what's happening in the country, and I certainly voice my opinions about it.
Thank you, sir. But Alexander, tap your screen, open your mic, a quick synopsis.
Garfield Alexander, medical doctor, student of Cuba, so student of socialism, student of communism. So I think as a very holistic human being, I'm able to see the coin more than just the two faces of the coin, but the bevel of the coin. Because sometimes we forget the bevel of the coin, which is the depth of the coin. And I want to correct Mr. McMahon because I think he's a stalwart. He shouldn't have to measure himself against anybody else because I could remember being annoyed by him very early in this administration, thinking, nah, man, you could hold a feet to the fire, but because I remembered saying to myself, promising to myself that I wasn't gonna be one of those that gonna be extra hard on the Labour Party because I was a stalwart. But Mr. McMahon, I could remember even Dwyer and Gwyneth were some of the earliest persons holding their feet to the fire and saying, all right, there's certain flags I'm seeing too early. I remember, I don't think he used that term, but very early in the game, he was one challenging the prime minister while he was still very applauded and very much praised. Ira McMahon was one of the persons that hold him, even without his so-called militancy. So I want to really commend him for that. And I've seen him done that against consecutive administrations, be stalwart, be upright. And again, as a young man who is a generation before you, I wondered for a good while we are the men like you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I can say, Ira and I have that understanding. We spent many evenings, afternoons at table during the 2022 campaign as part of that team to try to save our country. And we agree and understand that he will not be the militant type as he accused me of being, but we basically was on the same page at every step of the way. And I have said it before, and I will say it again. I think out of the team of 8 that I put together on a WhatsApp group during the campaign, other than myself, I think Ira is the one who has been consistent in his messaging and calling out the situation. So that is one of the reasons why Ira is here this evening, that we could have an open conversation and an open assessment, because if we are not going to be honest with ourselves, the citizens and the people that we elect, when they are making their mistakes, they're not going to see it as a mistake because we're enabling them. So the whole idea is not about cussing and all of that stuff. It's about making sure they understand. We saw this before. We saw this game before. We saw this story before. You went there to make a change. Don't tell us, well, that's for the farm administration. That is why they're not there. So at this point in time, I'm going to drop Dwyer commentary for today, Wednesday, the 24th of September, gentlemen. And following that commentary will allow you to give your input, and we're going to dive straight into the conversation. As usual, too much to put into 2 hours, but we're going to try our best to speak to the issues, deal with the facts, and make sure that when we leave here, the citizens are empowered based on our conversation. That's what this podcast is all about. Empowering our federation, empowering the people, and make them understand that it's okay to say somebody is wrong and still love them and still support them, but let them know what they're doing is wrong. Don't try to cover up the wrong and defend the wrong. It is not good for the country. So stand by.
Greetings. This matter of the Special Sustainable Zones Act, which was passed recently in Parliament, continues to occupy people's minds, and rightly so. It's very important. I spoke about it a few weeks ago, and I think it merits a second visit. In fact, it merits a lot more than a second visit. What follows is not an endorsement or alternatively a rejection of any political person or interest group. Rather, it is intended to be an objective analysis of the facts and the act and the constitutional and other implications for the people of this country. Firstly, the act applies to both St. Kitts and Nevis, and it seems that the first candidate for such a development is land in Nevis. I am told that ideally developers are trying to get around 2,000 acres in the southern side of Nevis, which is undeveloped land. Now 640 acres make up a square mile. So this land, if all or most of it is sold, would constitute about 3 square miles. That is 1/12 of the size of Nevis, or twice the size of St. Paul, Charlestown. So the area of the SSZ proposed could, at the end of the day, accommodate a community larger than Charlestown. The owners were approached, and many of them signed purchase and sale agreements and accepted deposits. All of these lands are privately owned and owned by persons of varied backgrounds, including persons up and down the chain of command in the two political parties. As I said, the owners were approached, and many of them signed purchase and sale agreements and accepted deposits. I'm also told that the real estate agent for the project is the wife of the premier, and that his law firm is providing attorney services. So people involved in both political parties seem to be personally or professionally involved in the project, whether as sellers or as service providers or whatever. I don't have much detail. What I'm giving you is what I have. And this is not an attack on anybody. I'm just trying to represent the facts. All of the closings are to be done at the end, when arrangements are finalized, so that the developers will know exactly which landowners and how they're going to set up the project and that sort of thing. So we are some ways away from this thing becoming a reality. And it gives us breathing room to ventilate, to have conversations, discussions, and to let the public know. In terms of national importance, this matter is as consequential as matters get. And I believe that the federal government and the Nevis Island administration both dropped the ball by not engaging the public extensively. As I said, it is not too late. We are all human. And if our leaders made a mistake, then we can forgive and understand. Let us now engage fully to examine what this is all about and the implications. Let's do that. And if after full public ventilation and enlightenment have been achieved, our servant leaders are unable to persuade us, the people of the country, of the sustainable benefits of this project for us, the people of this country, then there should be no project. And conscientious, significant developers should have no problem with such an approach, because they would now have respect for the people of this country, our standing up for what is right for us, and of course for them, but it has to be right for us. And we have to look at generations to come. You're talking about 1/12 of the size of Nevis, an area twice the size of the parish of St. Paul, Charlestown. And good investors would love the fact that our leaders respect us and our democracy. Here is another chance to shine, and the rays of sunshine and inspiration from us doing things like this and doing them right, whatever the outcome, will be infectious globally. Now, the Prime Minister has said that he has no say over lands in Nevis, and this is a matter for the NIA. I beg to differ. Section 106 of the Constitution lists areas of governance in which the NIA has exclusive responsibility for the administration in Nevis of any relevant laws, and by laws I mean laws passed in the federal parliament. The term used for laws in Nevis is ordinances. So the NIA has exclusive responsibility to administer in Nevis any federal laws that are listed there, referring, for example, to airports, seaports, extraction and processing of minerals, fisheries, health, welfare, labor, licensing of imports and exports, and lands and buildings in Nevis which are owned by the Crown and are specifically appropriated to the use of the federal government. So with regard to those lands and buildings, the Prime Minister does have a say. But the land in question for this SSZ does not fall into that category. So let us look around some more. In the same section, the Constitution states that nothing in that section shall affect the exercise of power vested by law in the Governor General or in any federal minister, or empower the NIA to take any action that is inconsistent with the general policy of the federal government, as signified by the Prime Minister in a written communication to the Premier, or which relates to a question which, in the opinion of the Prime Minister, as so signified, involves issues of national concern without the prior concurrence of the Prime Minister. So with regard to those areas that I've outlined nothing can take place if the federal government, the governor general or a minister or the prime minister has a problem with it. So this means that while the Nevis Island administration has exclusive responsibility to administer certain areas of governance, it nevertheless does so subject to the laws of the Federation and to the authority of the PM. Now, if this is a private land transaction, it may be easier to buy what the Prime Minister says, and he's being sincere, that he has no say in the matter. But if that is a matter which is a matter which in itself or as part of a bigger matter has to reach his desk for approval, then he must have say in the matter because it has had to have his signature, such as this would. And he is the man who has to sign the agreement. So with regard to these matters, he does have say in land matters in Nevis. Now, the last time I spoke about this special sustainable zone, I referred to some of the contents of the act. I wish to invite and encourage the government and the NIA, please engage the public, explain the act in detail, take your time, let the people understand this is a watershed moment in our democracy and in our economic and national development. Let us do it right. Don't mind you slipped up at the start. There's a lot of discomfort out there. There's a lot of disinformation and misinformation. And the leaders of our country need to take steps to ease the discomfort and help to clear away the disinformation, the misinformation, the doubt, the misgivings, and the concerns. There are some worrying things in the act. I went through them a couple of weeks ago, such as the reference to the seabed leases. What seabed leases you're talking about? And I harken back to the Christoph Harbour Agreement 2007, in which they were given a perpetual seabed lease. I don't know of any animal in the law known as a perpetual lease. And the seabed is the bottom of the ocean from the border 12 miles out. Those things should not be on the table for discussion. Those are very serious things. And any government that signs that kind of thing is not worthy of being a government. Section 9 of the Act, which states that the Prime Minister for the government and the Premier for the MIA may, not must, not shall, may establish independent oversight bodies to receive and review applications from potential zone developers or to monitor zone developer compliance with the terms of any development agreement. May, these things have to be compulsory. But even with that, based on past record, this may not be satisfactory. Why? Because who are the people who are appointed to these committees and boards? Party hacks, people eager for an extra $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a month, people desperate for validation to be put on a board or given certain tasks to perform, many of whom don't have the efficiency or proficiency or attitude to hold on these sensitive, transformative positions in the public. Look at the boards over the last 45 years. Show me one of them that is completely comprised of properly equipped, trained attitudinally and skills-wise. Every single one of the board, every member. What you're seeing is political patronage. It makes a nonsense of the process. What kind of oversight can you expect of such a board? And how can we expect a change in direction from this administration or that government? And based on what we've seen for the last 45 years. In any endeavor where power meets the public interest, the people of a nation need to be protected by individuals of strong mind, strong skill, strong will, and strong character, not political stooges. And I don't trust the language of the act, and I don't trust the record of politicians in this country with regard to constituting and establishing boards and committees. I am way beyond tired with politicians abusing the public trust by appointing cronies. Look at it. Look at this situation. Look at the past. Look at the one before that. Look at the one before that. Underqualified and unsuited cronies to hold on these positions. In conclusion, while it may be a bit late, it is not too late to get this right. Bring the people of this country into the process. Have town halls. Have podcasts. Engage the people, invite the people, include the people, fine-tune this, get it right in the minds and hearts of the people, get it right as a formula for going forward into the future, and make us a stronger, better country. This is not good enough. Thank you.
I think
Yeah, Brother Dwyer. Week after week, I listen to your commentaries, and you know, I appreciate your commentaries. I look forward to them. But you continue to put up this magnetic field around the Prime Minister for whatever reason. It's time enough, Dwyer, that you deal with the issue head on. Deal with the facts. We are not now supposed to be talking about no podcasts and no town hall and all of this stuff now that the act has been passed. We have to go back from the beginning. We have to deal with it from the onset. If the Prime Minister is genuine in what he's saying, like you said, Brother Astafan, the Constitution gave the NIA full authority over the lands of Nevis. If Nevis want to create a SS zone, there was no need to bring it to the federal parliament. And I call it parliament because they lied to us inside there. I need them to done with their lying to the people. When Dr. Joe, Prime Minister Joe, going to say today to keep him out of Nevis affair, he has nothing to do with that. He's the one that put himself in there. He's the one that presented this bill in Parliament. When whoever came to him about doing this bill, before it become an act, should tell them straight up, deal with that in Nevis. I don't want to get involved. That's what the Prime Minister should have done then. But what he did, for whatever reason, he entertained the conversation. He presented it in the federal parliament, and the bill was passed. It became an act. I understand it was gazetted sometime on the 21st or 22nd of August. If the Prime Minister wants to be genuine, Mr. Astafan, repeal the act. He wants to be genuine and don't want to get involved in the Nevis affairs, repeal the act. Let Nevis deal with their business over there. And why I say this? It's very simple. The Premier had an opportunity at a town hall meeting back in July. It might have been July 5th or the 10th, I'm not sure. To come clean with the citizens. There's a young lady that questioned the Premier at a town hall meeting in Nevis back in July about the rumors about this zone. And he told them he know what they're talking about. He don't deal with rumors. He do not know what they're speaking about. He do not deal with rumors. He don't respond to rumors. A week or two later, the same rumor that the lady spoke about ended up in the form of a bill coming to the parliament, presented by our Prime Minister, to create this same zone that's supposed to be rumors, according to the Prime Minister, according to the Premier, sorry. It did not stop there. Maybe a week later, or a little more than a week, after the bill was presented in Parliament, here comes the Premier making a national address, stating that someone within that short space of a time have shown interest in this zone. And from then to now, the lies continues. Because from talk show to talk show, people are questioning why the rush, why the situation. 1 minute, the Premier is saying that he had no involvement with the bill, preparing it. He had no involvement in it. Then later on, it went to his legal team. The AG saying that the Nevis Island administration or the people of Nevis didn't have any input until it was in Parliament during the debate. The Prime Minister come back and said that this thing being in place for so many months, it even went to the UN and was accepted by the UN. So who are we supposed to believe? Is it the Prime Minister lying to us, the AG lying to us, or the Premier lying to us? Either way, Dwyer, let's deal with it in real time. This bill must be repealed. Not should be, must be repealed. Let the Premier go back to the process with the Nevis people, do the town hall, whatever assessment, and if they want to have that zone on Nevis, let that zone be done in the NIA. Let them control their land as per the Constitution. That's what the Constitution called for. Not the Prime Minister getting involved. I have a lot more to say now. But when I get into this zone, sometimes I find some words that is not fit for the spot for this airways. So I'm going to turn it over to Brother Garfield and Brother Mark Mahan to give their input on Dwyer's commentary on this SSD zone as we see it at this time. So, Mark Mahan, I say your mic is open. You want to jump first or you want to give it to Brother Alexander?
Well, I could yield to Alexander if he's ready.
Man, age before beauty.
All right. I'm not going to argue with that. Okay. Well, first of all, Dwyer's commentary, I think, as his commentaries usually do, crystallizes the issues in a way that I think, most everybody can understand. Okay? He actually pointed to at least two significant parts of that bill, which are the cause for concern. All right. My introduction to this whole fiasco, because that's what it's become now, was really when that lady got up in that town hall meeting and asked that question, okay, as to what was happening in that place. And the answers, I mean, yes, we're accustomed to the premier being his usual sarcastic, condescending self, always talking down to people. I don't know how he get away with that as a politician, but I don't know. Some people seem to like that. In his usual fashion, basically dismiss the woman. A taxpayer, a voter, I assume, It was totally disrespectful of him in the first place. But I think all that was to create a red herring, a distraction about the real issues that were bubbling under the surface, even back then. And long before, too, as we eventually found out. Because what happened is, and I think, although we might criticize the NRP for being kind of laid back, I think they really grabbed particular voices in the NRP, really grabbed this and held on to it, okay? So over time, we saw the hard questions being asked and the probing and the researching. And so each time the premier found himself in a box and had to respond to these queries, okay? And then we have this, I think it practically came to a head with the session in Parliament to pass the bill. Because then is when we realized that this bill was definitely intended to facilitate what was apparently on the horizon, okay? What was being negotiated, perhaps, all right? What was being proposed, right? And they deny this, They deny that it has anything to do with that. I don't know who in their right mind would believe them, okay? No one can tell me that the cabinet didn't know of something happening in Nevis, okay? And we saw the hot potato thing being played, where the premier started it first when a caller into one of his shows, I think, asked him, where did the bill initiate? And his red herring answer was, well, the AG office is responsible for drafting bills, okay? And then the poor AG then had to come and say, well, I wasn't there, I was at the UN, okay? You want me to bring my drafters? you know, and you had the back and forth, which you know, the whole thing seems so frivolous and unserious, you know. And then what made me really get concerned was when I went up to Nevis on a talk show. I got roped in because I called into a program up there. And the premier was part of the panel. And what really floored me was when he actually said that, well, one, that the acreage involved was about 2,400. They weren't going to get all of that, but it was about 2,400. And that at any given time, that zone would have 7,000 to 10,000 persons in it. Could be residents by citizenship, by CBI. And when you really sit down and think about that almost doubling of the Nivision population, right? And the impact these people who are coming with a different culture, different value system, lots of money, what impact they would have on the society. And we're talking about the society. We're not even talking resources, right? The society itself. You can't just put this under the carpet and not tell people and have it in that circle, that small circle there. That's not how government is supposed to operate. Something as impactful, something as game-changing, because they said it so themselves in Parliament. Something as game-changing, transformational as this, and you are going to keep it in that circle that have a record of messing up when it comes to their negotiations and so on with investors. That circle that, like, they forget, well, at least the Labour Party personnel there, it's like they forget the values, the principles of the Labour Party, and just got starry-eyed at, I guess, all the billions and so on that these investors dangle in front of them, okay? And not looking out for our interests. That is what really got me thinking, no man, this can't be right. And so that is why I really got involved in this. It's not so much, I think, that we don't want. Obviously, we welcome foreign direct investment, right? But we have to be careful. We don't want a Trojan horse. We don't want people sneaking in and a creep up. And when you look, we're faced with a fait accompli, a done deal, a done deed, and we can't do anything about it, right? If this thing was so good for the country, and by the way, let me add something here. There's the attempt to separate the bill from what is being proposed for Nevis. You can't separate the two. They're trying hard to do that because it is true. If you look at the bill by itself, right, it might seem pretty innocuous, pretty harmless, okay? But it was interesting when I made the point that the bill itself is, I use the word basically saying that it's vague. And said basically that it's a catch-all. It can facilitate from the very ordinary economic zone, to something as bad as, let's say, a Jim Jones commune, the bill as it stands there. because it's a catch-all. The Prime Minister objected to that. It was a show that I called in and asked him about it. And he objected to that and interrupted what I was basically saying. Didn't like the comparison with Jim Jones, but it's a fact. The bill
It is a
is
fact.
there.
It is a fact.
And he himself, what was funny is that he himself said afterwards that it's an overarching bill. Well, there's not much difference between vague and overarching, okay? The two of them facilitate the same thing, right? And so this attempt to separate them is, I think, is not going to fly, because the issues that people have come from with the bill has been highlighted because of the proposal that was being that was being touted in Nevis, right? The Attorney General said that the discussions in Nevis, as far as he was concerned, were premature, right? Worry about it when you actually have a proposal before cabinet. But if you give it, you have the premier giving details on this, right? Obviously, it can't be premature. What you want to wait? What you want to do like what the lady Condoleezza Rice had said. Wait until you see an atom bomb, blow a mushroom cloud before you get rid of whatever weapons might have been there. You have to discuss these things.
You see, Brother McMahon, there's a saying out there now. Where you see the smoke, look for the fire.
Absolutely.
And when you're driving on the street and you see a ball on the street, look for the kid that is coming, because there's a kid behind that ball. The prematurity here is the bill being taken to Parliament. The conversation within people of Nevis, the consultation should have been first. Not a bill in the what you call it, the federal parliament. It should have been a conversation with the people first.
And this attempt to wash your hands and say, well, that's a Nevis thing. I ain't have nothing to do with it. You're going to pass a bill that is enacted for both St. Kitts and Nevis. You don't think a proposal like what is being planned in Nevis going to affect St. Kitts as well? And how come you didn't do the same thing when you were talking about geothermal, for instance?
Correct.
Right? You can't have it both ways, right? And this attempt to just wash your hands of this, I don't think is going to fly either. All right? And if this thing was so good for the islands, I maintain, it would have been a good sell to the easy sell to the vision. If they do, as you said, have these town halls before, explain what the project is going to be about, etc., in advance of this, right? Because of course, and you know something disingenuous that is happening too. They want to tell you this is how they plan to sell it. Imagine 4 seasons plus. 4 seasons on steroids.
I heard it.
You're right. So when they put it in those terms, it make it seem, but of course, 4 seasons being good for Nevis, and of course we would like 4 seasons plus, not realizing that this is nothing like 4 seasons. Or what is being proposed is nothing like 4 seasons. Because if it was, why would they need a special an authorization for a special sustainability zone? Huh?
Brother McMahon, I could say this to you, right? Based on the experience I've had with the Premier and this Prime Minister and our newly elected Labour Party and our AG, putting him in there. If this was good for the people and it was going to make them look that good, every opportunity they had, every podcast, every talk show, every parliament presentation, before they put this in the form of a bill, they'll be blowing the trumpet. They will be blowing the trumpet for everybody to see that they has a good deal. But
of course, but you see, they want to have the cake and eat it.
But look at it.
There's this thing, right, where you realize that, let's say 7,000, 10,000 new citizens You realize how much money that is coming into the federal government too?
Yeah.
They want the good, but the bad is something else.
You know what keep bothering me and what keep puzzling me, right? I interviewed the AG on this platform when they was talking about increasing the ministers of government salary by 33%. They accepted the 33%, but they blame it on an assessment from the former administration, right? And one of the things that the AG said was the reason for this increase is to ensure that the ministers of government don't take bribes and do anything illegal and whatever once they get in a good salary. I am of the view that these ministers of government might be higher paid, been paid higher than the former administration, but they have done more damage than the former administration with these things that they're doing. So I am not convinced, and I'm going to use one of Dr. Garfield's slogan, when they impress me, I will clap. Right now, I cannot clap for what I am seeing because the lies, there's a quote that they lie to you with the hopes that you are not paying attention. But they get upset with you if you find out that they are lying to you. My good people, pay attention. And but I am going to come back to you, but let me hear what Dr. Garfield have to say on this matter. You see, he's over there burning up.
That's exactly what he was. But like I've told you sometimes before, I'm practicing active listening and I'm a good colleague for the CEO of Medical Cannabis in Antigua. I think he put it the best way. Anytime we're getting together as a group and he's about to take questions, he tells persons to raise their hands, he's going to make note and everybody puts down their hands. Because if you have up your hand in anticipation or you're clamoring for the mic, you're listening to respond. And you're not actively listening. So I was practicing that there a lot and taking some notes. But I want to start off with Contender because I want to start like the sermon from the book of Contender. Because last week you came with the Gad. Because if you look at it, the ethos of that is leadership and standards. And you heard me talk about accountability. And us, well, at least me, I've made a decision I can't hold people accountable. I can only hold Garfield accountable. And my daughter is now 19, so I can't even hold accountable in the limited way that I used to be able to. So we can't hold them accountable. We've set standards. The chief standard in our nation is the Constitution. And the fiduciary duties and responsibilities that we know these guys are failing at. So right there's where it starts and ends. If these people are not carrying out those duties, then they need not be there. And those standards are carried by each and every party. These people represent a party. There's no independent there. So those parties have standards within their constitutions as well. But everybody is about power. So I want to start with content and you put up greediness. If you go and look for the definition of greediness, is excessive and selfish desire for more. Desire is innate in all of us. But when your desires are truly selfish, only centered around you, because Mr. Matt Mahayam was saying that they wanted good. To want good is not to want good for yourself alone, for you and your wife, or for you and your life, and for you and your family alone. That's not goodness. That's cannibalism. Because if you're totally centered on your own self or on your own family, it means you are capable of eating everyone else. And cannibalism is what's killing us. Because we can't speak about cannibalistic leaders without having a cannibalistic citizenry. So I don't want to stray too far from it. Excessive and selfish desire for more. But more what? More food is the greediness we like to talk about. And we could see that in the persons who end up either overweight or malnourished. Because you could overeat and don't eat the specific nutrients that you need and still be sick. So we like to talk about excessive eating and see that as greediness and see the money grabbing and the grabaliciousness as greediness. But there's a greediness for resources. So when we see the investors coming and they're just saying that they want some resource that we're taking for granted here, that's greediness too, because there are resources in their country. The fact that they're coming here for it means that it's cheaper here. Or that their dollar is rated higher than ours and they can get more for their dollar. So when people come here and we clamor and we want to be paid in US, we are being paid 2.7 divided. That's what I work. Any work we put out, the 8 hours that we think that we're getting paid for, divided by 2.7. And you work just as hard as any American that would come and do that work, but you're getting paid divided by 2.7. So when we look at exchange rates and hoopla, yeah, because the same way we see. We sell our passport for next to nothing, and everybody in St. Kitts, where 99% of the persons want the English or US passport, but they don't value theirs. They're not concerned if it's being sold or whatever price is being sold. They don't care that they have one. They want another one. So that is greed in itself too. The power that we see all these guys coming about, and the chief technicians, our chief top representatives in the Premier, Prime Minister, and the AG. All of a sudden, nobody knows who wrote that bill. A bill central to all what's going on, a bill that they said that they argued in the parliament, 3 from Nevis and 3 from St. Kitts, that it's going to change the landscape of St. Kitts. And again, we've heard these tales, these narratives, these soundbites as far back as 83. We don't have them on social media from 83, but we have them in the papers. The Democrat, you could Google it, the Democrat, the Labour spokesman, see the promises being made and not being kept. So it's just not today that these guys are not standing up to their fiduciary duties and responsibilities. None of these guys from 1980 till now have delivered. So that is not an indictment on them. That's an indictment on us and our processes and our so-called elections, that we only get to choose who they choose. And people come to us and promise us standards and don't deliver on any of those standards, and we somehow feel like our hands are tied, even though those persons came representing a party. And then we have town hall meetings, which is like top down, because why are they coming to you? Anything that has to be carried out by you and me. Everything that they need to do should have the blessing of all of us, because it's going to impact us and we're going to carry it out. So sometimes we speak as if they're making a policy, and then some place down the line, a third party is going to deliver it and set it up, and then it's going to impact us. So we're worried about impact. We are the ones in the civil service. We are the ones in the private sector. We are the ones that are going to carry out these policies. These policies are reflected in our actions and behaviors every day. Because there are policies surrounding the traffic that none of us are privy to. But we carry them out every day. We stop at the stoplight. It says to stop. It doesn't tell you how long to wait, whether you should permit somebody to pass. We know all the rules and we break them every day. But our society functions. So the rules are the least. Before people like me and you, who look like me and you, took over and started writing the policies, they were written in legalese for a reason. Because I spoke about it, let me use this word. There's no animal in the law about perpetuity and buying at the seabed. He said there's no animal in the law. But yet we hear that Dr. Douglas, along with some of our most brilliant AGs, because he had many, wrote these laws into place. So we should be surprised that Garth Wilkin could be dancing around and saying the things that he did and trying to reinvent the law. We shouldn't be surprised, because it's not the first time we've had an AG that ain't. And I'm not going to say he's not competent. I'm going to change that, because I think people may have misinterpreted when I was speaking about Dr. Joe. It's not the level of competency. I've seen super competent teachers become incompetent. Heads of a school, principals. I've seen super competent mechanics, like deliver every time, reliable, everything. And as soon as they head TDC or they head their own shop, incompetent leaders. They don't know how to manage money. They don't know how to manage people, most primarily. So it's not that we have incompetent AGs and incompetent prime ministers. They're incompetent leaders. They don't grasp empathy. There's a serious disconnect. They don't know who they are. So they might have been great lawyers, but when they find themselves in these leadership positions, this is what we see, that repeat cycle happening over. They are incompetent leaders, because we measure them by popularity. We measure them by their marketing and their branding, and not about their spirit and what they've delivered. Because if you look back on the history of some of these people representing us now, they never had a history of being empathetic. They never had a history of giving back. And if they did, it's in a very limited way. But that can be easily manipulated. That's the criteria. They bend over. The morals seem to lean in certain instances, especially when it involves family and friends and hard decisions. Leadership is a hard decision. Because all of us have to lead ourselves every day, and every day we make hard decisions. So why is it that we think people are going to be running cabinet, parliament, running industries and don't have to make hard decisions? That they should be making popular decisions? Every step along the way, like, you know what, like makes me vomit inside my mouth? When we are going to have a press conference called by one of our leaders, our political leaders and leaders of our civil service. And the hard questions have to be asked by the interviewers. Matters of public interest, matters that are being lambasted and blasted all over the airways, and they come as if ignorant to these things, and somebody has to say, you don't see what's going on? And they say, no, I'm not paying attention. But they pay attention enough to warn you to keep off of social media. So again, I've seen it over and over. Why do we allow our leaders who we've elected and we pay speak to us in that manner? Disregard us in that manner. Have no answers for our questions. Yeah, that they have to be guided back to the question. That they still feel that they can show up in front of us and lecture us and give us history when they're the one going against all the history, inviting you to see Marcus Garvey's son, and they're not Garveyites. They're not even Bratchites. They're not even Laborites. So why you think nobody comes on my post and speaks those things? I try to challenge me on some of the things that I say. Because it's not speaking from emotion, it's speaking from fact. I've stood, I've sat, I've listened to passionate labor rights. So when I see people coming parading in red, issuing sound bites, and then in a condescending tone, like, that is not unionism. When I see everybody that wants to mobilize and get boots on the ground, but don't want to organize. Because if we can't go back to these parties, if we can't challenge the Labour Party and its unionism, and its empathy, and its love for the people, and the policies that it has been enacted since 1989 under Douglas, what type of Labour Party could that be? What kind of leadership is that? That you can't challenge your leadership. Leadership is challenging. Leadership is change. But it's a change of expansion and growth. It's not a change of retraction and disembodiment and separation. So even when they use their language, you could tell they're not of us. But are you like that? No, man, they ain't like that.
Okay, Brother Cat, Dr. McMahon, you want to respond to anything before we move on to the next topic?
Well, I mean, that much is obvious. The fact that this Labour Party is like nothing I've seen. I've been around long enough, long time, right? Somehow key people there have lost their way. And it seems now that it's all about the narrative, the deception, the photo ops, those kinds of fluffy things, and not about the people. But you know what's going to be interesting? To see how many people who really believe in the philosophy of labor, in the principles of labor, they're going to follow them, you know. It's going to be really interesting. You know one thing? Our ancestors, our forefathers, they didn't have the education we had, okay? But they knew what they wanted, okay? And they made sure that they made life easier for us who were coming. And somewhere along the line, that got diluted, the renewal and so on of those kinds of commitment and passion for downtrodden and the masses. Somehow that became unfashionable, and we left with this very shallow kind of labor party that we have now.
Let me make a.
Some people seem to be okay with that, right? I don't know exactly where that's going to lead, but I don't see that it's leading us to a good place. If everybody becomes just individualistic and it's about me, and don't bother with them old people there with their altruism and values and morals and all those kind of things, and I am going to do me, then, as I said, if anything goes, everything goes.
Everything. Gentlemen, I'm going to give you a chance to speak, Brother Alexander, but we're already 1 hour into a 2-hour program, so we're going to have to move to some other topics. But go ahead, Brother Alexander.
Oh, I just wanted to highlight in our world today, and it's just something I was actually deep diving on today. We see school and education as synonymous, as schooling and education. But if you go back to the etymology of the words, and when they started coming in to common use, they were vastly different. Both have Greek or Latin origins, but for school, it really spoke to of a space where those Greeks got together and would conduct lectures in open air amphitheaters and speak of that. And they could do that because they enslaved the whole world and had all that freedom. But that's something that's very much a part of our abundant lifestyle, which they had because they conquered people. But that's very Afrocentric in a place of abundance. That's how people would do that. So I'm going to give you the example of a very astute man that I ran into in Papi Shop. And it's amazing to me some of the wisdoms I actually gleaned here. And he was drinking a Coca-Cola, and like just teasingly in random talk, I was, oh, you're having a drink, you're chilling out. And he said to me, no, actually this is the most productive part of my day. He does joinery. He says, because people will see me and think of lime, having a Coke or even having a beer, watching cricket. But really, this is the time where I put all my ideas together. Like a time where I'm neither at work, I'm neither at play, I'm not at leisure, but I'm allowing all those other things. Like I could have 5 things to do, but it matters how I manage my shop and how I managed my work, what's bringing in money. And he needed to do that. So that is schooling. Schooling could happen anywhere. So when we speak of the persons in the sugarcane, in this processing the sugarcane and cutting the sugarcane, sometimes we think not that we think less of them, but we think like, oh me, they're educated. But these people were lively. These people lived the life and were finding solutions to problems every day because they were working together as a unit in most times, even at work. So they were being schooled and they were going through the schools of life. Education now is a process which is very much colonized, which is very much extract and put you into boxes. So the two are very separate. So our sugarcane workers, the people that brought us to where we are, because since Thatcher left, that type of governance, we have not seen that. We have advanced in terms of technology, but we haven't advanced in terms of our morality and our self-worth, because that's what schooling does. When you get over a problem without all the tools and you find out your way, your cultural way of doing it, you're enhanced as a people and you see value in yourself and you increase your self-worth. Education is certifications and all them other things.
But Alexander, what is your answer to the usual narrative that, but look at us, we're leading in the region, okay? If the leaders were that bad, who came before were that bad, how come we've managed to do so well? I mean, my answer to that is, of course, we would have done even better if we had better leadership, or that the leadership elsewhere is even worse than ours. Okay, but there's this thing that we're progressing. So don't panic. The sky isn't falling. So how do you what you said there about education and the uneducated?
No, not the uneducated. Schooling and education.
Schooling and education. Yeah, right. The schooling that came, right? The schooling that came, not a soul could have fooled them. Not the just come university trained, university educated people could have fooled them, because they knew that schooling, as you pointed out, gave them a kind of a grounding that nothing else, no amount of education could have given.
Well, for me, the answer would be for me, how I live my life now, I always try to attain a balance between spiritual sovereignty or even self-sovereignty, where I own myself, I own my words, I live up to the things that I believe, and community consciousness. And I think that's what the balances are. There was much more value in that spiritual sovereignty going up, not because there weren't much other options. No, with that development and the world moving along, because St. Kitts development wasn't just impacted by its own people, St. Kitts development was also impacted by regional development and global developments. So life moves on and places or spaces develop even without the inertia of the persons living within them. So the fact that we're just developing, I think we're growing, but we are not maturing, we're not evolving. There's not that endemic self-worth. So of course, because we're much more superficial, we are looking at things like international airports and the fact that we could fly and certain democratic rights of being able to vote freely. But again, how democratic and how free are you if you're only voting every 5 years for somebody they choose for you and you're not voting on policies?
And in between,
hold on. That because I'm saying I studied and lived in Cuba, where as a family and a leader of a family, I could go to my community or my neighborhood watch or my neighborhood council and impact the policy. So Sandy Point could know, hey, we're lots of plumbers down here. We could be the center for plumbing. Why don't we start to put things in place? And even if the government doesn't assist, they would know as a collective, hey, this will impact us. So government isn't doing it, but we could do so much private sector. We could do so much as volunteer, but let's start working towards it. I'm saying that's the part that connect has been severed, because when you sever that, you give the politician more power.
Okay, gentlemen, we got to segue into another topic.
Mauricio, one question. When you said segue into another topic, you're leaving the SSG altogether?
No, we could come back to it. But while we're on that topic, you guys are speaking about education and school and how we look at life and stuff like that. And I think, Brother McMahon, I think you have heard me make this presentation on numerous occasions during our meetings, that one of the issues I have with our people is that, yes, there might be many who have not traveled abroad and have the experience that I have had, but I know that there are a great deal of sensible people in St. Kitts and Nevis. We heard my good partner there, Ian Patches, but say, given a common sense test, 90% of us will fail, even though they say we have a 90 plus with literacy. I say all of that to say this. I want to try and capture a couple of things before we sign off this afternoon. And one of the things I want to address is the way we allow our current administration and the people that they appoint to various boards, various positions who are not qualified. I think Dwyer have a way of saying putting round pegs in square holes and stuff like that. And I want to touch directly on the dialysis unit at the JNF hospital. The past week was a very devastating time for many of those citizens or regional folks, residents that had to get dialysis and could not get it because of lack of having the proper acid fluids to perform that treatment. Reagents, sorry, that's the word I'm looking for, reagents. Now, I did my investigation And that problem was created by the administration at the JNF. It was created by the current PS. That problem in particular was created by them. We cannot run away from it. A gentleman who was the storeroom manager who keep stocks at the JNF for these kind of things for years, for political victimization reasoning, he was picked up and transferred to the JNF, to Paxton Hospital to, I guess, play with his fingers to deal with cockroach or whatever down there. While they put someone who does not have the skills, a new person up there at the storeroom at the JNF. And last Wednesday, I reported that those reagents were not available, and as a result, it was several days that people who should have got treatment didn't get treatment. And after I signed off on Wednesday evening, here comes a press release from the DHI stating something about technical matters that they had to deal with, and the matter was resolved and the treatment will start back that same Wednesday evening, the 17th. Now, I think was the last Friday, I saw the PS post something on social media saying that a second batch of this acid fluid for the treatment has arrived. Now, just as with the SSZ, where you had the AG, the Premier, and the Prime Minister giving different excuse for the messing up, just the same, they knew what the problem was at the JNF. And like anything else, they tried to spin that it was some technical issue and not the reagents that they did not have. But then here comes the PS speaking about second batch came in. But when did the first batch come in? If the second batch came in on Friday, when did the first batch come in? And when did you run out of that stuff? I spoke to a patient that takes dialysis 3 times a week. And one of them did not get treatment until Sunday. You're a doctor, Dr. Alexander, and I don't need to tell you what will happen to a patient when they're supposed to get their treatment and they don't get it for a day or two, what it does to the body and the damage to their system, and whether or not they could recoup that kind of lifeline in their system. And we can go back to another situation not too long ago, where the same PS of health sent a letter to the matron speaking about nurses that are giving or not giving medication and documenting and not documenting properly. This became a public spectre. I warned the Prime Minister when that PS was an acting PS of what will happen, because he's just not capable of the job. I like the guy. Very nice fellow. When I had my interview, he was the first person to warn me, DJ Marisha, the civil service is different to the private sector and whatever. So I understood what it's about. But if you're not qualified or not capable of doing the job, why put you there? Now, I heard the Prime Minister say also a couple of weeks ago that there's some course that they give for 16 weeks at ours, whether TVEC or IVEC, whatever they call the college, to become a professional, to be certified.
CFBC.
To be certified. You're going to tell me that you're going to compare giving any individual who don't have a clue about electrical work, about facility management, a 16-week course to become a supervisor or a technician, and you want to put them up to my 40+ years experience and they're going to be better than me? That's what you're trying to tell the DJ? It's about time that we, the people, tell the government that we put in place. You guys went in there and took a raise before you even perform, and you are not performing. And if you want to talk about you're performing in worse shape than the former administration. Because I want to play a clip here, but Mark Mahon, and I'm going to let you loose because I know you have a lot to say. But before I play that clip, I also want to bring your attention to something that I heard you said on Freedom FM, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, when you was on with the AG. You asked the AG a simple question. And the question was whether or not the locals that have their bar at the Friars Bay, can they coexist with the new businesses that they're trying to build here, the new hotel? And he's telling you by virtue of a lease that they had, that can happen. I do not know if you've been to Friars Bay. I took the time and went across the Friars Bay and did some investigation. Those people over there on that beach didn't just went there, guys. There was 2 tourism ministers that was involved in those guys being over there. Maybe there was tourism ministers before. But I spoke to bar owners who informed me that they was there because there was approved by tourism under Dwyer and under Ricky Skerritt in order for them to get a business license to operate. So when the AG going to say those guys over there don't have any business license, that's not true. And the AG need to either do his investigation or stop mislead the country. Because if the AG go over there and see that operation on a daily basis with locals and tourists alike enjoying the scenery and the beach and supporting those businesses and what they provide, it does not matter who owns that piece of land. Those bars should not be moving from there. That is a part of our culture. So that's my view on that. So I just wanted, before I get too far in, I wanted to bring that to your attention, Brother McMahon.
Okay, well, actually, I went over there myself too,
Okay.
and to talk to them because the impression given was that they were on the proposed developers' land. And one of the bar owners showed me a survey by a qualified surveyor that showed they were not on the developer's property.
I saw the document as well.
You saw it? You saw it? Right.
Yes.
And they had been paying, they actually were paying, thinking that they were. Those people should get back their money, right? And so
I'll tell you something as I said that I don't know if you saw this, but that same money that they were paying to a company or a firm, the letterhead for that company, their office was actually at the former St. Kitts Nevis Mission address on 75th Street in Manhattan, New York. That's where their office was. I got a copy of that document. So while they're in St. Kitts paying monthly fees for that piece of land that does not belong to them, that office is located in the same building where the St. Kitts Nevis Mission was, prior to where they are now.
And what irked me about the situation, and I told him straight off, it gives the impression that the government, which I would have thought would have been on the side of the beach owners, not owners, the beach
operators,
vendors, the big operators of those bars, seem to be taking the side of the developer, and they do the same thing like what Mark did in Nevis.
Correct.
So would you prefer what's the name of the hotel that's going over there? Ritz-Carlton, to some old shacks on the beach. It shows the mentality. I understand, and I mean, he had a kind of what you call a Freudian slip when he said, the government is pro-business. And then when he catch himself, and we're pro-people. And that to me is instructive. That says a lot. You got to read between the lines of these things. There's absolutely no reason why those bar operations couldn't be incorporated in whatever design that the
That couldn't be.
new hotel would have,
They should be incorporated.
right? And they're given a franchise, a first preference for a franchise to continue operating. The beach is long enough to have the high-end kind of thing on the by Carambola, as well as the
local culture,
right.
the local.
Yeah, there was nothing, but it's the mentality. That is what irks me, man. The mentality of these guys, where somehow or the other, when they see bright lights and they're talking to millionaires and billionaires and so on, it's like they forget what they're there for, whose interest is supposed to be protecting.
We have the wrong faces in the wrong spaces, Madam McMahon. Wrong faces in the wrong spaces.
Well, I warned, I warned, right?
You want me to, but you want me to, Brother McMahon, but remember what I said to you. I always believe in giving things a try. My grandparents taught me nothing beat a trial but a failure. So we gave it a try. It did not work. Pardon, I don't know about you. But I don't mind changing the government every year until we get the right government in Brother McMahon.
Well, I always say that. I mean, you change until you get the change you want. But I warned them that you can't do it alone, right? Make sure you choose you appoint good people to help you, right? But obviously, I mean, they went their own way, and this is what you get, right? But I wanted to with regard to the hospital, things like what you mentioned at the hospital. I don't know how Dr. Alexander sees it, but to me, things are too hit and miss, right? So there are still ongoing quality issues.
Correct.
Something like that, really and truly, I mean, I would have thought is a simple case of procurement stuff. I mean, why should something like that happen in a well-functioning, efficient administration? That's almost basic, isn't it?
It is basic.
Yeah, right. So I'm not overthinking it, but I want with the SSZ though. There are two things that I wanted to mention with regards to it. One was the attempt by the premier to legitimize what seems like nepotism and call it insider trading or influence peddling or whatever you want.
It is both. In my view, I see it as both.
Yeah, he wants us to accept it. And I found it really obnoxious for him to be saying things like, well, what you expect, Yes, we know human nature. Yes, we know the propensity for them, the inclination for people to look after their friends and family and so on. That is why you have laws and regulations in more democratic jurisdictions against things like nepotism and corruption and all those things. That is why you have them. Okay? So to give the impression that, so what? This ain't a big deal, right? You would do it too, kind of thing, I found really obnoxious. That was one, right? I don't think that was used as a distraction because of the fact that you mean to tell me that it's only one realtor in Nevis? Just the optics of it. Common sense couldn't tell him, look, distribute this among several. Huh? Maybe it goes back to what Dr. Alexander was talking about, greed.
Obsessive, compulsive, selfish desire for more. Greed.
And the other thing that I wanted to mention with this, right? Now, you mentioned straight up, DJ, that they should repeal, okay? Knowing how these guys operate, I suspect that ain't going to happen. So maybe we should look at ways that they can have an off ramp. Okay, either reduce the scale or
I don't want to cut you off,
know?
Dr. McMahon. I don't want to cut you off, but let me repeat myself.
Mm.
The people has the power. The 9 or 11 people sitting in parliament will not take us to the slaughter. We are not going willingly. They cannot get it done. That act must be repealed. Go back to the drawing board. They want to do the zoning Nevis, like the Prime Minister said, don't get me involved. I made a mistake. I acknowledge I made a mistake. Don't get me involved. Mr. Prime Minister, repeal the act. Then because you don't have to be involved.
But do you see them? Do you see,
hold
do
on,
you
Mr.
see
McNamara.
this administration doing that?
It's not about what we see them doing.
Will demand it. The people will demand it. Not what they want to do. The people will demand it.
Mr. McMahon, you said that you thought his response was obnoxious. He's obviously an obnoxious man, but what I'm sure you saw the post by his wife. And certain defenders of him have been saying that people are obsessed with him, and they've been throwing about this diagnosis of, well, it would have to be obsessive compulsive disorder. So again, I've been practicing active listening, but I've also been practicing that even when I accuse or blame, I also try to go deep within myself and find out, like, what am I actually mirroring back at myself to? So could there be some truth into what she's saying? And then when I analyze it, he's a public figure. They're based in obsession. That's why they cut ribbons. That's why they open roads, even though they don't work on them, because they have obsession with being on that platform and being seen. So you can't have obsession with a public figure and a man. And again, we have to keep their feet to the fire. And that's by paying attention. I want to say that it doesn't mean paying attention to them 100% of the time or 24/7. Just like how you, Mr. McMahon, your approach and your style and your personality and character is totally different to Mr. Marisha and totally different to mine. But we align in what? Not necessarily no personal moralities, but what we could see as obviously wrong. And here we are, within us, 3 different men, 3 different experiences, 2 different generations, feeling and knowing this is absolutely wrong, but yet have to convince other people who we know are feeling the same way too.
But you realize...
Let me finish. Because again, I'm agreeing with you that this is obnoxious. And why is it obnoxious? And why are we accepting obnoxious behavior, obnoxious responses from people who we place to carry out a fiduciary duty? People who have fiduciary responsibilities. And then we hear wondering, we should not be wondering. We have a list of what they should be doing and they're not doing it. We have a list of what a hospital should look like and feel like, what a PS and what his responsibility and duties are. That young man, I'm glad that Mr. Marishaw, I love his approach to things, because he said, I grew up in McKnight. That's a place where that young man was worshipped. Curtis Martin Wimpy, he was worshipped. He was one of the boys I, as a young boy, looked up to, because I heard my community speaking of him before he had any accolades. He's from Prickly Alley, a place that was known for Suffolk and poor and poverty. That Suffolk and poverty came as a result of diabetes and hypertension. So there was a point in our history, just recent, where we couldn't even diagnose kidney failure. Where it wasn't even seen and it wasn't even in the imagination of our doctors. Where people were Suffolk or just a Suffolk and you either had obia or didn't take care of yourself. People didn't know it was clinical symptoms or clinical complications of a disease because they couldn't afford to go to doctor. That's why they had bush doctor. Those are some of the things that implored me to go and seek this profession. So, again, we could say all the things that are going wrong, but all the things that are going wrong are affecting people in the daily, and they're not standing up. They're persons who feel, I don't have a right to make noise. I don't have a right to say this PS is not doing a good job. I don't have a right to say the CMO is not doing a good job. I don't have a right to say members of the medical board are stopping the expansion. and the futurism of medicine.
But aren't you throwing too much aren't you throwing too much responsibility on the people? What I mean by that, I honestly feel that these leaders know what they're doing is wrong, They know. But one, they're cynical. Okay? One of the things
No. Remember, you were asking me a question. You were asking me if I don't think that I'm throwing too much blame on the people. Of course not, because we are the one allowing. They are leading. And if they're leading improperly, as you were saying, we are the one continually still being led, still allowing, still normalizing. So the blame goes both ways. And for me, the blame is more over here because we are the ones with the actual power. All they have are titles and positions, at which we gave them. We are the ones constantly with power. Because for sure, I'm scared of JNF. And not because I don't think they have competent persons up there. I'm saying the competent persons don't have a voice. The competent persons don't import reagents. The competent persons are not signing the checks. The competent persons don't work at the treasury where there's a fixed budget. The competent persons are not the one establishing the priorities. The leaders are establishing the priorities, but we can demand what those priorities are. If we see we are not being prioritized as the masses, as the most important, we can make demands and we can stop it. And we somehow feel that we don't. We somehow feel that we're not responsible, or we somehow feel like we are wrong for asking to be valued, for asking to have some sort of what?
No, but you see though, people make decisions on essentially what they know. There is, you could understand the tendency, for instance, of, let's say, a man coming off the street saying, we're talking about health. I don't know anything about health. Dr. Garfield, no.
That would be a crazy man. Don't even want you to go any further with that. That would be a crazy man. If everybody, health impacts everybody from the time you're born, because we have a social safety net that is so wide. We have a social democracy in St. Kitts where government carries the post not only of the masses, but most of the private companies, they're supported by government. The biggest check come from Treasury. And they wouldn't even be floating if they really paid their taxes. So we know this. So we have to start operating like there's some people walking around who don't understand that JNF is in a state. Everybody knows.
Gentlemen, I just want to make a point, and I think my point, hopefully, Brother Mark Mahan will understand my point. I know you, Dr. Alexander, you've been at the JNF, so you may have a better understanding. I came into the JNF on the 18th of September 2018. After doing a couple of months of assessment and see what's going on, I referred my observation to the DHI, and he decided that he agreed with my assessment in many ways and what he's trying to do. When I realized that nothing is being done, I asked him one day, really what's going on with the Prime Minister? Because every time I walk through the facility, everyone who speaks to me asks me question and whatever, they're telling me that what I am telling them that we are working on, there's nothing really to be investigating because the Prime Minister was a doctor working at the JNF. He knew everything that was going on at the JNF. He said once he gets into office, he will fix certain things. Maybe you can't fix everything in a short space of time, but you can try and do something. I listened to the Prime Minister on numerous occasions on Freedom FM at his round table, gaslighting the citizens, telling them everything that was fixed at the JNF, water pressure and everything else. And I would reach out to him and I would say to him, I realize you said XYZ to the general public. You are misleading the general public. You're going to be embarrassed when people come to the JNF and realize what you are saying is not so. Well, Jeffrey, this is what this person said and that person said. I said, Mr. Prime Minister, you are the health minister. You're the Minister of Health. Is either those people you have up there that you're depending on for information do not understand their job, they are not willing to learn, or they're just naturally trying to undermine you and the system? Because I have seen too many red flags. I can recall on numerous occasions the Prime Minister says to me, well, Jeffrey, that's why you're there. But how are you going to tell me that's why I am there when the people that I am reporting to are not listening? They continue to make the same mistakes. And when you try to show them where they're going wrong, they take it as an offense. That's an advice. My good cousin there, Dr. Martin, you know, the former CMO, supposed to be an advisor to the health. I have brought things to his attention, and all I get is some bullshit questions from him. It looks like these guys only care about getting a paycheck, not about doing things right at the hospital. I told them before, their heart tables in the US in better shape than the JNF. If I were to come to the JNF as an inspector to inspect, I would have shut it down. I would have padlocked it. I have said that to them. But I'm there to help to get it into good condition. And as Dr. Garfield said on numerous occasions on this podcast, it is not like we don't have good doctors, good nurses, good workers around. It's from an administration level. And yes, the budget that they're given to the administration to run a hospital, come on. They're depending on grants that they don't get.
Health and education have been cut, eh?
Yeah.
And that's the next thing they haven't announced publicly. Health and education budget have been cut.
But
generally, what I find with the government is that they have priorities mixed up. They're not, to me, they are not running the government like they're having a budget crunch in certain places. Okay, so you'll find, for instance, look how you would have thought by now, after a year, the first year, certainly after the second year, they would have settled down and stop all this traveling and so on and this lot of money and thing. Put the money in places that are needed. But no, they continue it as if tone deaf. One of my disappointments is that the Prime Minister seems to want to be a clone of Premier Brantley. You know, same style, same banana trees in the yard, you know. And
don't forget that the Governor General have bananas too. Is the tree top in the Federation?
Well, but what I'm saying is, right? Sure, I guess you must have a style, right? But use good judgment and decide for yourself what is the best way to approach this. What's going to deliver the best results, right? Instead of this superficiality that we tend to get, this fluffiness and this lack of depth, you know, that is what irks me, that we had so much promise. You know, many times in the past decades, we've had so many opportunities to turn things around, do things differently, and we keep falling back into the same thing. That is what I find it hard to understand. At least going and try to do something different.
Where the slang is labor is the problem. I did not know that, but that's the slang I'm hearing these days. I thought we had a new labor administration under the leadership of Dr. Joe. I was speaking about the hospital. Gentlemen, when I got there, the drainage on all of the roofs in the facility up there, the complex, the trees was between 12 inches and higher in all of the drains, blocking up the drains, water leaking all over the place. I had to get all of those things clean. When this acting Pierce came in, talking to him about leak, he said he wanted to go down by TDC to see if they have any sealant down there. He does not get it. He does not understand the major work that need to get done to fix that issue completely. When the Prime Minister says to me that we got a grant from the Taiwanese to waterproof the roof. I accept it as a temporary fix. I was able to slop the water and stop it from coming in. But over the months, as the atmosphere, the heat and the sun beat up the roof, the heat on tar paper is coming up, so the water continue coming again. Then I'm finding out that it was not a grant. It was actually in excess of 180,000 US paid to these Taiwanese. When if I had that money, I could have used local contractors and do a much better job and a better long-lasting job. The lies, the misinformation, and
Yeah.
the DJ supposed to entertain that?
It flows so smoothly. That's the thing, and that is why, Dr. Alexander, I come back to the thing where you're saying the blame is equally on the people. One of the things I really dislike is politicians trying to pull fast ones on unsuspecting people. They do it all the time. And supposedly the good politicians are really good at it. And so they get away with it. Right? And it's really unfortunate that our people are at the point where they're more likely to give them the benefit of the doubt rather than demand real results, delivery of real results. And that is why I say, look, we have to get to a point, right, where you must have transparency, openness in government, and accountability, all those things. They claim they have them,
Yeah,
when you say we, hold on. Mr. Mahan, when you say we have to get to a point, who is that we? Who are you describing within that collective?
The people. I'm talking about the people.
Which people?
The ordinary person like me.
No, but that's what I'm saying. That is where we make our mistakes. So when we make these overarching statements like we the people, for now only includes me, you, and Marisha, because the persons that think that we are never going to align on what decisions are we going to make. Hold on, so that we make some advancement in this little deliberation. I'm saying that you're saying we the people, so I can agree. We the people need to do this and make better decisions. But we the people is not one cohesive collective group. Even if we align, how do we make the next step now that we the people that think like how we are thinking? How do we now impact policy? That's where the problem arises. Because it won't be those guys to change their minds or for us to pressure them. It has to be a collective group that starts to work differently, that starts to pressure differently in a more diligent and efficient way. Otherwise, because I don't know if you all realize we're repeating a vicious cycle, We're back here on Marisha's show, shouting at people who are not listening, both the collective and the leaders.
I disagree that they're not listening. Let me tell you something.
I believe they're listening.
Maybe not
listening for you is hearing. Listening for me is I want people listening to change their behavior.
Change behavior. Yeah, I understand that.
So you can't tell me
what I'm saying, right, is that you may think people are not listening, right? But there are two things. One, the people in an election, for instance, right? It ain't that you necessarily need a mass of people to change, People win elections by 1 and 2 votes.
Mr. McMahon, gone on to election. We were talking about whether people are listening or not, and if they're listening, it's causing change behavior, because it's not listening unless there's change behavior.
But that's what I'm telling you.
But I've already stated that election is not empowering. Election does not empower us. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this situation. We empower Dr. Jew, and he's doing this to us now. So that
is the system we have. What?
That's not the system we have.
Short of a revolution.
No, you cannot say short of a revolution, because then if you say that, Mr. McMahon, you're saying what we're doing here is futile. I am saying, before we get to election, there's much that we can do, because everybody, every politician, every parliamentarian is represented by his party. If you have even 10 people that demand or make demands or go into their constituencies and make those demands, those changes can be enacted. People will Listen at the point. But shouting on the radio, you won't have changed behavior.
Sure.
No.
If one
And
or
if
two,
you're creating an election,
one or two or five, right, decide, well, you know what he's saying makes sense, okay? And then I come back to voting, because that, in our system, that is where change is effective, right?
and
Those
again, and I'm
people,
saying no, we must establish certain finite points. I am saying that elections don't empower. They might cause change, but change ain't
right,
always empowering, because we've had several changes since 1980 and they haven't been empowering.
okay, because we make wrong decisions in the choice in the choices that we
No, because we
have.
had no choices. We had options. When you make a
Options,
decision, you make a decision.
options, choices.
No, they're not the same.
Let me hear the nuance there. What's the
Huh?
difference? Let me hear the difference.
Options is when you have more than one to select. A choice is when you have those options. But when you make a decision now, you're imparting more than just that. You're looking at the decision as in, hey, no, let me make sure that, let me go back. I'm saying that elections are not empowering because you don't impact policy. You get to pick who your leader be. You get to pick who parades in front of you and farm the theatrics. But that person, if you don't have we have a system where they come back and ask us, where they're supposed to have town halls, or you have councils within your constituency, or a street, or this is how it could be empowering. Each family, each household can be a representative vote. And we have councils in every village or in every street that then dictate what do we want? How do we want to influence policy? Even if they draft it, we could see it before in the preliminary. There are ways that we can empower ourselves and don't wait, because there are persons who are retired who have more time to press to them. And even if on a weekly basis, you want to sit in with your council member and say, hey, what's going on? What are the policies up? Who don't want to participate, won't participate, the same as elections, but we'll have some impact. I'm saying that process is possible within our party structures. The thing is that we're not doing it.
Within the current system?
Of course.
How many people do you hear clamoring for constitutional reform to actually make those kinds of changes embedded in
My job is not to count how many people is doing it. I'm saying that it can happen. So even you and I, who identify and are more conscious of what's going on, can start making those movements. I'm saying we can talk, we can inform, and we can educate. But there are also other parameters. There are also other processes that we can enact. You, Mr. Mausha, and I. So to say that we're not empowered, or to say we have to wait until the election, that's futile, because it means, what are we doing? It's just a waiting game. And remember, these persons are still making decisions up until elections. Some of them know after elections they won't be here. So what are they doing? Stockpiling the money, exporting the money, ensuring that the treasury pays off certain things. They're still prioritizing all the things that we don't want prioritized, because what? They know they're going out. I'm saying we put a stop to it now.
Gentlemen, very healthy debate, very healthy conversation. And guess what? I don't know if you guys realize something. You guys just give me an idea, so I'm going to hold you all foot to the fire. We will have this conversation offline, and we'll try and get that committee in place for those things, Doctor. Now, the next topic.
Look at how easy he's trying to rope me in now.
Well, you made the presentation.
I already roped in. I don't understand.
You made the conversation. You made the conversation.
You want some superficial commitment. You can't be land based politicians for superficiality and want to be superficial.
You presented a common sense option. You presented it. I accept it. We will have that conversation. You know, so gentlemen, as we move on to the next topic, because we are almost down to the bottom of the hour. Brother McMahon, again, you was a part of that team where we fought for electoral reform and the issues at the electoral office there.
Right.
In the 2022 campaign. We are now over 3 years since the Dr. Joe-led Labour administration took office. And I have asked the question of the AG on a few occasions, and he told me a committee was already in place. By the summer of 23, that will be done. And I keep reaching out to him to get updates. Instead of updates, I stop He stopped taking my calls, stopped responding to my messages. So you know where we were with this electoral office. What's your position on that right now?
Electoral office.
Yeah.
The thing with the electoral offices, I've noticed that the same systems remain in place, but we've still managed to change governments. When people fed up, they fed up, right? And no amount of shenanigans would prevent a change if the people really want it. You see, and that is why I believe more. Yes, it's a waiting game. Yes, it's 5 years, and all kind of damage can be done in 5 years. Yes, they can accumulate these big set of money and put it in offshore accounts, etc., right? Yes, all that can happen. But the thing is, and that is why I said short of a revolution, why I don't like revolution is that they can be bloody and burn things to the ground, and you have to
We
bring
never
back.
make any advancements without violence. No advancement has ever been made without violence. So you can't say you don't want that.
Okay, thanks, gentlemen. We got 3 things I want to get in quick before we get there.
I'm saying that we should not go there.
Okay. So the same violence that they're enacting against us every day. So how can you be, how a man could be slapping you in your face and then you say, no, I'm too Christian to slap him back. That's what's happening. They're slapping us in our faces every day.
You mentioned options and choices. There are ways.
So I don't want to exclude any option. Don't exclude any option.
Marsha and I have had that discussion so many times. It's a matter of strategy, right? This militant strategy, right, is fraught with a lot of problems. You don't get anywhere.
No, violence is not a militant strategy.
Especially in our situation, in our part of the world.
I agree. Mr. Mr. Maham, not saying the different thing, I'm saying that if somebody comes to you, just like Malcolm has said, if somebody is enacting violence on you, the only way to prevent that is not to run, is not to guard your face, is to be violent back. So I'm saying if violence is being meted out against us by our leaders, we meet back that violence. If they're not being violent, there's no need to.
I need to make a point here, gentlemen. Over the last 2 weeks or more, there has been several notices from the police department of individuals being arrested and charged for larceny. I see about maybe 6 young ladies in the last week or so that has caught that in that situation. Now, not that I encourage these kinds of things, but let's look at our poor, simple individual, the young little boys or girls who are trying to make ends meet, who don't have any option. They don't see where they have any option but to go to a supermarket or a shop and live something to get something in their stomach or to feed their kids. And they're placed and locked down and going through the rigmarole of how much ever months or years in prison for a tin of sardine, a tin of Vienna sausage or whatever. Now, they're only affecting that one supermarket or that one shop. Now, let's look at the big picture, where a government that we elect that have our purse, where millions of dollars are unaccounted for. And that is the reason why I could say maybe a lot of these people turn to crime for survival. But yet, none of these ministers are held accountable. We have an AG that came on this podcast and sat here when I spoke to him and gave me the impression that it was only one time he forgot to pay his nanny's social and he paid it up. It turned out that I got a clip saying that a judge is saying it was 3 times. And it was an offense that's supposed to be charged. But he's our AG today. So when you have an AG that commit those kind of crimes and a prime minister that still have him in office, what do we expect to get out of a government?
Well, it's the tone from the beginning. I remember when it happened. It was very early in the administration when that story broke, right? And, you know, when you're a new administration, what you do out of the door sets the tone essentially. That is why you might have so much ill discipline lower down, right? When you don't have good examples at the top,
Correct.
right? Honestly, when it happened, my first inclination was to give the AG a break, mainly because, right, and maybe that has to do with my perception of people getting a chance, being able to get a chance, another chance, so to speak. One mess up should not, break you.
I thought it was one. I was the same as you, but I found out it was 3 mess up.
Okay, but what I'm saying, what I'm saying is, right? Maybe that was a mistake on the part of Prime Minister Jew, in that if he had put his foot down right away, I mean, everybody in the administration and low down, right, from captain to cook, would get the message that I'm no nonsense, right? The things I won't tolerate. Okay? Because like you, I mean, I saw I saw with 3 girls, and I saw it on Facebook, and I made the comment that it's sad, right? If they were first-time offenders, they should have found a way to at least, no, I'm not saying that you shouldn't punish them, but find a way not to embarrass them like that in the public, like they do with white-collar criminals. I did make that point. Somebody write back and say, wrong is wrong. Of course, wrong is wrong. But
wrong
certainly,
wrong is not wrong.
Wrong is not wrong.
Yeah, because even when we're growing up, we see our parents doing wrong, even though they tell us and they correct us. So we as little children, I'm speaking of that. We as little children I grow up and we know from a very small child that there's a double standard by we are lived by as human beings. So as we grow up as adults, we get to accept more and more double standards. That's all that's going on now. There's no reason.
No, but double standards are wrong. Wrong is wrong.
I'm saying double standards exist within human nature because
they exist, but it's still wrong. And that's what I was saying with these people. Yes, they should be punished. The punishment should be consistent, right? But it's still sad, right? Wrong is wrong. Okay,
gentlemen.
I'm saying in a country where our DPP's office, our AG's office, our Commissioner of Police office are all compromised because we see criminals walking around, white-collar criminals, all our constitutional laws being broken, and those people are not being held accountable. We are being minuscule and over-judgmental if we're going to create a conversation around larceny. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about, that double standard there. Because I, as a parent, I had to live that. I had to change my approach with my daughter because I understood after a while, I could see through some of the lies of my mother. When I first went to teach, I could see through the lie of teaching and the whole establishment of teaching when I became a teacher. But
I'm sure you would not teach your daughter to pick up, to steal, right? You do, regardless of what kind of double standards there were.
I'm saying it's a red herring. We shouldn't be talking about the larceny. If we're not doing something about the larceny being committed by our leaders, that's something we could constantly do about because we can't eradicate stealing, but we could eradicate having people who we know are corrupt leaders. We could do something about that every day, and we're not doing that.
Actually, the reverse is true. Actually, the reverse is the opposite is true. We can do something about the petty crimes, but getting at the white-collar criminals, as you well know, is a much more difficult task.
Mr. We will disagree on that deal. So I don't want to. That standard can't go out record. You can't tell me that it's
a double standard. I know it's a double standard.
Gentlemen, we're at the bottom of the hour. I want to get in one more clip before we drop out. So we're going into overtime. But Brother McMahon, I agree with you with one of the things that you were saying about those young ladies. If it's a first-time offense and if we can try and do whatever. What I really thought of, and I got to try and find out the legality of this, because if Church should have a song there about if a man steal to feed his kids or someone who is in need, whatever, he could understand and forgive them, right? I got the same honest opinion. It's not everybody have that mindset that thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not all of this stuff. The pressure that folks are feeling right now in our beloved federation under this government, it's unsurreal. And if there's any way that I could get the information whether or not these are first time offenders, I don't want to be out here stressing to help people who went to steal braids and eyelids and lipstick and those kind of stuff. But if I get to know that these individuals are individuals that went and steal food because they're hungry, they got to feed their kids or whatever, I would like to do my part to not only help those individuals set up something where we can give them some food weekly, monthly, or whatever. And if there's any way we could lobby on these businesses to try and settle these matters for these poor women. These are young.
But I understand that, and that's a good gesture. But you know what? What really I find really pathetic. What I'm so disappointed into. You know, you get the impression. I think Garfield made the observation when he talked about empathy. You get the impression that those higher ups are tone deaf to these things. Everything is rosy and dandy and so on, and they're not paying attention to these everyday struggles that people have. It's all about self-aggrandizement, doing everything to build themselves up, while people, ordinary people, struggling. A lot of people, I'm sure, are doing well, right? No question about that, right? But what happened to the and that's why I go back to the same thing about the labor, for the good that we can do, that old labor philosophy, right? What happened to those who really struggling, right? I don't see anybody really trying to address that, right? Everybody looking at and I don't know, maybe that's the way politics is done, or has always been done. You know, the greatest, what I said, the greatest good for the greatest number, or some nonsense like that, and forget about the straddlers behind there. But somebody gotta look after them, you know. And I don't get the impression. I get this government right now comes over as elitist and
They are. Not comes over. They are elitists. The poor man. Listen, I complained for weeks on this podcast about the poor people. And they said everything was good. There's a young lady that actually took a drive around the island with me some months back because she said what she hearing me talking about, it don't seem that way to her. I said, well, you're in the Basti area, maybe you're not in the rural area to understand what is taking place. The day when we drove around, there really was not much to see because the people that I normally see on the side of the street, for whatever reason that day, I didn't see a lot of them. But following that conversation, I realized the Prime Minister came up with something that he will give $1,500 to each citizen who qualified. But how he gave it is, I think it was $250 a month for 6 months. Could you survive on $250 a month to survive, Brother McMahon?
Boy, is them tricks and gimmicks that don't work.
But let me hold on.
I'm sure that y'all saw people, I mean, flashing their jet thing.
The jet thing on the phone, the jet app.
Right? And wishing that it would have continued, right? Those gimmicks and so on work, right? Instead of coming from day one, trying to get investment, growth and investment, local and foreign, to give people decent paying jobs, right? They seem to concentrate on these little trinkets, these little things that keep people, in inverted commas, happy.
But you remember,
right?
remember Dr. McMahon, we spoke about the CBI and how much billions come to the hands of the government.
As for that.
Hold on, let me get in there for 1 second.
Come in.
I really want to talk about the comparative between the larceny and the white collar crime that we see. For example, I'm going to use the example I use of the young ladies. I don't know any of the young ladies. I don't know the social circumstances, but I know if they went into a store, whatever moral judgment they made, but the security in there, the store doesn't want its products to be stolen. So all the security is there, all our fail-safe was put in place, they broke it and got through the card. Good. The difference with leaders coming for us, running a campaign, that goes totally against all that happened with those young ladies there. Not, and speak of all the factors that might have pushed those ladies to do that and say they're going to prevent that. They don't do it. They profess to be kind, empathetic, loving. Don't do any of that. Go into all those offices. Use all the mechanisms that they have at their power to enrich themselves. And then, if they don't collude, overpower or leverage the institutions and personalities and positions are put in there to stop them from doing that there. That can't be compared to larceny. And I don't want us to lose sight of that. That when you have the white collar crime, especially to the extreme, where leadership, where we have governors, we've seen it in the past, AGs that not only are supposed to ensure safety and security, are vetting all the deals that we've been doing from 80 till now. And you somehow want to compare those two. Yeah, we have to come better than that.
Okay, let me drop this final clip and I'm going to give you guys a chance to do your closing because we are right here now talking about that CBI.
Further, on August 18th, 2023, St. Kitts and Nevis CBI officials led by Attorney General met with UK Home Office about our new CBI regulations and practices. On October 26, 2023, our same team of officials met with US Treasury Department in Florida, along with officials from Caribbean CBI states, to discuss progress on US Caribbean Roundtable 6 agreed principles, Madam Speaker. On January 25th, 2024, the team met with EU visa officials in Dominica to update them on new regulations and current practices. Madam Speaker, we have maintained constant dialogue and engagement with our international partners. However, we knew that the prison project had contributed to over 20,000 new citizenships being granted in a short period of time, Madam Speaker. This is the travesty. The travesty in all of this, Madam Speaker. 20,000, Madam Speaker, citizenships, over 20,000 to 25,000 new citizenships being granted in a short period of time. Madam Speaker, let's pause for a moment on that. How can anyone grant 25,000 citizenships for a prison? 25,000 based on the new census, and the Minister of Sustainability is here, Senator Honorable Dr. Joya Clark, that we are about 53,000 residents here in St. Kitts and Nevis, both citizens and residents. 53,000, Madam Speaker. And for a prison, you give up to 25,000 new citizenships. Madam Speaker, this is a travesty. It is borderline treason. On a prison project, you have granted citizenships to up to 25,000 citizens, half of your population. Madam Speaker, if any percentage of those persons were to come here, what will happen to St. Kitts and Nevis? But nobody was thinking about St. Kitts and Nevis. People were thinking about themselves, Madam Speaker. Putting self above nation. This is a travesty. And I want history to record that I inform the people of this. Our children must know this. Our grandchildren must also know this. This cannot be hidden from the people. This is a travesty, Madam Speaker. Any leader who grants 25, 50% of your population in citizenship by investment over prison, any leader who does that, Madam Speaker, should never be able to face the people again. Madam Speaker, this hurts badly, you know. Each time I watch the number, I call the AG. AG, is this real? Is this number real? 25,000 over prison project? In such a short period of time, committing the country to this? Committing the government to this? Madam Speaker, every citizen should be outraged by this. This was totally unnecessary. Our country should not have been subjected to this risk, Madam Speaker, with this high number of citizenships over prison.
Gentlemen, that was our Prime Minister in Parliament, now that he is Prime Minister. We campaigned on that prison matter during the 2022 campaign with the hopes to stop that project. I had visited that area and realized that the work from the former administration, those buildings that was under construction, is still in the same status there. They have not moved. So what we are seeing there now is under this new administration. And according to the record that I have been given, is that this same complaint that the Prime Minister is giving in Parliament, he signed off on the majority of those CORs. He said the people should be outraged. Why are you so quiet, Mr. McMahon? Why is Dwyer and Sam so quiet? Why nobody's outraged?
Talk is cheap.
No, but that's not cheap talk. That's self-indictment there. That speaks to the same fiduciary duties and responsibility that I speak of. He himself indicted himself. He himself said, I shouldn't be standing here in front of you, but we are allowing it. So how is it his fault? Tell me, that's the question I have for the two of you. How is it his fault?
You keep saying that we are allowing it. Huh?
Yeah. How are you disallowing it? Then, okay, if you're not allowing it, you're disallowing it. How are you disallowing it? Tell me.
No, we have a system, okay? Until that system is changed, where you have things like recall and those things, other ways that citizens can make an input in between elections, we have to deal with what we have. One of the things, I mean, the Attorney General and others have been making this point that, well, you elect us, right? And you should allow us to lead on your behalf, right? As if to say, well, even if I do foolishness, you elect me. We ain't elect them to do foolishness. Huh?
But that is the same thing I'm saying. If you're saying they're being so obnoxious to you, how do you stop that? You have to wait for 5 years?
But
the man is being obnoxious to you from the very first day.
The alternative is what you seem to be advocating, the violence.
It's sounding like the AG more and more. You stop putting words in my mouth. I'm not advocating anything.
Not the violence, brother McMahon.
Not advocating anything.
An awareness match.
But the one who used the term.
What term did I use?
An awareness match.
They're practicing violence against us.
Are they not? Are they not? So what are you complaining of here on the program? I mean, that the violence being meted out against you? The obnoxiousness? That's not violence?
No. Well, when people think of violence...
No, we're not speaking of people, Mr. McMahon. I'm speaking to a very conscious and wise man like yourself. So don't refer me to other people. The conversation we're having is between the three of us. Other people are the audience. I am saying to you...
Fair enough. Yeah. When I think of violence...
Government policies haven't been violent towards us, yes or no?
I will speak for myself here. Yeah. When I think of violence, right, I am thinking in terms of absolute violence. I'm not putting no nuance or anything to it, right? And I'm saying that the consequences of that are usually bad. And that is why I would not participate in something that would involve.
You see, but what you're doing there is jumping over. You because the conversations I'm trying to have with you before, and you're not having that. You're just saying you don't want it to go to extreme, and you don't want it to do that. Because I said that socialist and communist. Communism comes from the word community and commune and communicating. Socialist is what we're doing now, socializing. I didn't say I'm a violent man. I won't have violence meted out to me and don't have the option of meting it back because
And don't use the word. You should not even use the word then.
Wow. So you're telling me there are words that are excluded from my vocabulary?
There are words that convey particular meaning. I'm saying you can get the effects that you want without.
No, Mr. McMahon, you can't tell me how to speak and how to communicate.
Gentlemen, let's bring it back together. Let's use my word, for example.
No, but we have to have these in the
No, but Alexander. Let's not go down that road. Words is words. I'm just trying to make an example. Words are just that, words. I understand what both of you are saying. For example, we are having an awareness march on Friday. That is my word I use because it's an awareness march. Some other people will say a protest march. The word protest could bring what Mr. McMahon is saying. I've been a part of protest march in the US for our union and for job security and stuff like that. People get their tires slashed, people get their legs broke, people get injured, end up in hospital. That is not what
has nothing to do with violence, you know.
I am just saying to you, the words that you use make a big difference. I'm saying to you, I hear both of you. You all are correct in what you are trying to present, but words means a lot.
I'm not a politician, so I don't wish to be political.
Garfield, let me tell you something.
Yeah, I don't wish to be political.
I agree.
Semantics.
I agree, right? One of the things I firmly believe is that the oppressor always want to tell the oppressed how they should respond.
You sounding like the oppressor?
Huh?
You're sounding like the oppressor because you're telling me I can't use the word violence?
No. Hold on. I agree. I agree with that, right? It always happened. In 93, when they had the skirmishes down 4th Street, right?
3rd Street.
Church Street. Some people felt that they had gone too far, right? And I argued no, because, strangely enough, I argued no. Then, wait, then, because I know whether you're Palestinian, whether you're a freedom fighter in South Africa, whether you're in the civil rights movement in the States, right? The oppressor always want to tell the oppressed how they should respond.
Like our government now. When people
do that, right? Anybody who gonna be facing machine guns and tear gas with bottle and stone, either the stupid or the brave. And I know our people are stupid. Okay, so I understand that dynamic. But what I'm saying is, right? You have to become cognizant of the environment we're in, what works and what won't, right? And you can't just say, well, and this has been a problem which I find with Labour all along. The arrogance of the right. They know they're on the right side of history, and so it's almost as if, well, whatever we do, the ends justify the means. Well, that end justifies the means thing is the cause of a hell of a lot of conflict in the world, right? And maybe I'm older now, so whereas I might have started in 93, I've moderated my views and feel
you've become more fearful. There
are other ways.
You've become more fearful. You haven't aged. You've become more fearful.
More fearful. Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe I have more to lose. Perhaps.
Gentlemen, we are actually 20 minutes in overtime, so I want to get into some ads here and give you guys a chance to have your closing, because it's definitely gone over 6 o'clock. But Brother McMahon, I want to bring something to your attention. I saw Dr. Douglas put something on his page. I do not know if he handled his page himself or someone does it for him. But he put something some weeks ago that there's a saying that sticks and stones can break my bone, but words can do no harm. We know that from growing up was one of the things that we practice. But he said that in reality, words do hurt. And I just want us to understand
He said that? What you say?
yes,
He said,
He said sticks and stones.
there's a saying that sticks and stones can break my bone, but words can do no harm. He said that is not factual. Words do hurt.
Okay. Who he was talking about? You?
I do not know. It's possible. It's on
yeah,
Facebook.
last I agree with him, but I agree with him with that.
So let me drop some ads here, then we're gonna come back and do our closing
Yeah.
because we're running in overtime. So stand by,
Watch the
please.
words. Yeah, watch the words. Yeah.
All right, my boy Aston Coker.
3A's Auto Services is your one-stop auto care shop. Are you looking for reliable auto care you can trust? At 3A's Auto Services, we keep you rolling safely and smoothly. Tire sales and installation. Quality tires for every vehicle expertly fitted. Vehicle repairs and maintenance. From small fixes to major repairs, our skilled team gets the job done right the first time. Friendly, professional service, honest advice, fair pricing, and a commitment to keeping you on the road. Don't let car trouble slow you down. Drive in today and experience the 3A's difference. Visit us at Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts, or call us at 869-664-2204, 869-667-2071, or 869-665-0605. 3A's Auto Services, where your car gets the care it deserves.
Yes, that is the man there, Brother Aston Coker, Main Street, Sandy Point, St. Kitts. 3A's Auto Services. Now let's take a quick run across our sister island, Nevis, and check in with my boy Carbo there. Hear what Carbo have to tell the DJ this evening. Brother Carbo.
Cabos, located at Fountain Village in Nevis, is the go-to spot for your Saturday treat. Tantalize your taste buds with his delectable Cabos Delicacy Goat Water. Or, if you prefer some soul food, then Cabos Fungi and Fish is definitely the way to go. Call ahead and reserve at 869-663-9694. Then make your way over to Cabos and enjoy the vibrant atmosphere while you savor your delicacy. Cabos, we are not changing, we are only improving.
Food all over, food all over. You got the food all over.
Yes, man, you got the food all over Nevis there and Sink. It's just that Carbon or DJ Marisha sent you. Now let me touch my girl here, sister Carmen of Carmen Caterers.
Girl Sandra, you know where you can find nice fresh local food 7 days a week, one provision and all kind of thing. Girl, where? Right down there by Shellings, by Carmen Catering Services. Girl, she opposite the bus stop. Girl, and she also cater for weddings, parties, anything you want to cater for, funeral and all. Girl, and trust me, you're going to enjoy the food. And she also selling bites and sundaes. Opposite the our shop, right down the main road. Girl, you could call 665-1494 or 663-6005 to order your food or go and pick up your food. Girl, the food that is finger licking and you get your money worth. You ain't want nothing better than that.
For sure, and you can check Sister Carmen there at the West Ferry Terminals, Fisher Lane, Monday to Saturday, midday until 5 in the afternoon, and a Sunday there in the bus stop, Boyd's Village, right opposite the Ogara shop. My good people, just one more day to go before our awareness march there, starting at the bus ferry terminal and ferry terminal there, downtown Bastia. So let's take a quick listen to this ad.
Let's let's unite and stand up for right.
It's the Citizens Empowerment Coalition Awareness March on Friday, 26 September. Citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, it's your time. Boots on the streets are required. Let's save our country. Get your placards ready. Gathering at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal on the Bay Road from 2:30 with the march starting from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. For more information, call 660-0195. So, get ready to hit the streets on Friday, 26 September from 2:30 at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal and be a part of the Citizens Empowerment Coalition Awareness March.
Yes, my good people, that this coming Friday, we gather there at 2:30 down at the West Ferry Terminal. Let's take a run across to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and hear my boy Malvern comes off the Spectrum Band have to say about the DJ.
Hey, this is Malvern from Spectrum Band, and you're listening to DJ Marisha, playing you the best in Caribbean music.
You got that.
Hey, this is Malvern from Spectrum Band, and you're locked into DJ Marisha. Keep it locked.
Right there. Gentlemen, back to you. Which one of you are going to drop your closing first?
Let me go to first, because I might get a chance.
Yeah.
I want to go back to
you notice how you change on me now?
No, that wasn't a change, that's balance.
I like that.
Let me say this before anybody, because people have a way of misconstruing things, and I have nothing but love and maximum respect for Mr. Marisha. In fact, I didn't for Mr. What I keep forgetting his name. Mr. Marisha, remind me his name.
Oh, it's me. You couldn't remember? Simple like that.
It's because so much in the brain, But I have nothing but love and respect, and I really smiled today when he told me you were gonna be on the program, because I find the program works best when there are three minds, because I believe in the road, and this is something I want to look up to, the 369 ratio. If you don't know about it, it's just look it up. So it's Mr. Marshall, somebody that I love and respect, and I think I said that in my intro about how I feel about him. So irrespective of what we met, for me, that's just iron sharpening iron. And I think as a people, as a collective, even within leadership, I've seen this, that when we go at each other, people see it as wrong or bad, as disrespectful and all these things. But I don't want to reside in rooms that I can't come at you hard, because I know we're all on the same ship and we're trying to move the ship. So we're gonna have to have hard talks, where we're gonna have to clash at your ego, where there's no wrong or right. There's just expansion and growth. So I really wanted to make that clear. But I want to go back to Dwyer. He mentioned, like, he really, with now it was a lot of fluff, but there was some insights and some things that resonated with me. One of them was objective analysis. That's lacking a lot. And even within myself, sometimes I ask myself after I express an opinion, how objective was I? Because a lot of what's going on, I can't be objective. I was very much a part of it. That's why I stood up when Mr. McMahon spoke about violence and our interpretation of violence, because we have to not only understand the violence that we're capable of, we also have to understand the nuance of the violence that's been meted against us in generations after generations. The type of violence that we don't see as violence. The violence I felt when I came back as a doctor with Dr. Jewel, he incorporated later on. But the violence we met from the elders and the executives and even the government that weren't welcoming, that was a violence meted out, because where else could we go? Dr. Joe was in Jamaica. He had a Jamaican girlfriend and he was exploring the possibility. And that was very brilliant of him. But some of us didn't have any choices. Because when I went off, I told my mother she couldn't stand for alone, because I was the eldest of 4. So when I came back, to later learn 20 years later, that at that point when we were coming back, Dr. Douglas was selling out the country and offering loans and setting up going on the trauma of a road that was placed on private property without no real vision for the people. During the 80s, when we were supposed to be thinking of more and the masses rather than individual persons, to see trauma upon trauma, that's violent to me. I see that as violence.
What's the difference between injustice and violence?
Then there's no
Isn't there a
difference.
difference? There's no difference between injustice and violence.
There's no difference. There's emotional violence. There's physical violence that we all think about and are obsessed with. But there's emotional violence. There's spiritual violence. When you look for your savior amongst people who are from you, who know your pain, and they are the ones that are worse than any white man.
What I'm saying is you can choose your words. You can choose different words and mean the same thing.
If I choose different words, I will be Ira McMahon. I am Garfield Alexander with different experiences.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Okay. Yeah,
I'm about balance. I'm not about being politically correct. My calling, my purpose in this life is to call out injustice and to call out violence, to call it for what it is, irrespective of how that looks.
And one of your purposes isn't to achieve results?
No, Mr. McMahon, you can't tell me what my purpose is. If I'm telling you what my purpose is, you should sit and listen, not try to interject or change my words.
No, I'm really trying to understand.
Even if you don't understand, it doesn't mean that that's not my purpose.
Okay.
Even if you don't understand my purpose, it doesn't mean I'm not fulfilling my purpose. My purpose does not need applause.
I am okay.
Thanks. My purpose does not need applause because in my mistakes, I will fine-tune my purpose. But I know, as basic as it is to call out what I see as injustice. And when I call out injustice, it ain't because I saw it in a book. I was dictated to me in school. It's because I feel it in my bones. Because even when I was small, I could hear the elders speak. I didn't understand what I'm saying, but I grew in my understanding. Around them cane cutters, I never cut cane yet. But I understand the pain I went through. And I more than understand it, I see it repeating. I see where persons, just like me, after Batcher said, yeah, we got political power. All we don't have is economic power. I saw those persons come up and put on the vestiges of the Brits and the colonizers and become worse. Because 40 plus years afterwards, the way we celebrate independence, like I see them do an enactment of the red coats, not an enactment of the slave of where we came from and what we went through as slaves. The red coats shooting off guns. These were the same persons that ensured that we were colonized and kept colonization in place. At our independence celebration, we wait for people to come off ships, is buy ships and submarine, not some buy ships that is colonized us. We think that moral and just must be dictated by the church. So even though we've been clamoring for the past 40 years of the injustices, only until a preacher says it, we could share it or applaud it, because we're still looking for saviors in the church or through the church, and they have not been saving us. When Columbus stepped off, he made everything here crown land. And that crown was just not a crown on the head of the king and the queen. That was a crown on the head of the bishop and the pope. So the two truths could exist. Christianity and the church can and will always be doing good things, but they've committed some atrocities and continue to commit atrocities. So that is what we have to accept. That violence can be soft and hard. That religion could be good and bad, until we're able to have these taboo topics and sharpen iron against sharpen. We are not ready for that expansion. We are not ready for that true change. Because you all said tonight, I'm willing to change government every year. And I'm saying, no, I don't have the capacity. I don't have the energy. And I don't have the life force to do that. I've seen what our errors are. And that was my indictment against Dwyer. Nothing wrong with Dwyer saying what's wrong now. But Dwyer was there. Dwyer is a bridge. He's not a doer. Dwyer has passed from a colonized state, because I remember the first person I voted for was Dwyer. And I couldn't stand Dwyer in my limited knowledge of him. So when I came home, because I wanted to get a trip home from Cuba, jump on a labor plane, as they call it, and came home, registered to vote, and then walk out. No, I have to find out more about this man if I'm going to vote for this man. And when I did a deep dive, I did get all good news. He was a part of the cricket team in Night, the football team, always in the executive, always adding value. But what I said today about competency, you could be a competent lawyer, competent social activist, until that competency puts you into a leadership position. And it's no longer about just competency. It's about empathy and about you remembering I'm a bridge. I was once there. I could end back up there. What am I going to do when I'm at my pinnacle? How am I going to enact true change, not just change? That was fundamentally lacking. And you see the art out there. You speak to men you love. Sam Condal is men you love. You want to respect, but they are not admitting their mistakes. That is how the change will come. That is how we won't repeat the mistakes. That is when the violence will be reduced, or when it won't be seen as true violence. But for now, all these men are doing are repeating the violence. We're living in the imagination of, who was our first tourism minister? No, not of Southwell, of Powell, who came in afterwards. All our prime ministers are living in the imagination of Billy Herbert, because all of them are CBI focused. They only see foreign direct investment. They only see it as the answer to all, the be all and end all, because they don't value their persons. They don't value the Kittitian. They don't value the division. There's no difference between the Kittitian and the division, because they can't differentiate from where the father came to where the mother came. Every Kittitian knows has a division friend or a division family, the same vice versa. It's just the politicians that are always in making us focus on what makes us different rather than what brings us together, and how much we so alike, and our intrinsic value as Kittitians. We've always been valuable. Divisions always been valuable. We've just been waiting for saviors. We no longer have to wait for saviors.
Thank you, Brother Alexander. I guess I'm going to have to start putting time limit on these closing, because...
Well, I'll be short. I will be short. One thing that stood out for me that he just said, there's no contrition, right? Our leaders have made mistakes, but they're not contrite about these mistakes. They don't accept them. They don't take responsibility for them. And if they don't do that, they can't do better. Okay? And I still maintain that there are so many, what he outlined there it can be overwhelming. There's so much to do. I still maintain that you can
not
still
if we are doing, sorry to interject, but not if we are doing. That's what I'm saying, why we have to say that the blame is on both sides, because people have to stand up. We talk about sovereignty of the nation. It begins with the individual sovereignty. We have to have people who think, I can do this without a politician. Not, man, the politician will put him in, I gotta get him involved, I gotta get something from him. We have to have that sovereignty to feel like, hey, I'm a man. I must be a man in my house. We have people who are not men. That's why we have leaders who are not men.
But what I'm saying, okay, is that, I agree, we don't see no visionary leader on the horizon somewhere, no savior, so to speak, okay, that's gonna rescue us from the malaise that we're in, okay? But in the meantime, it doesn't mean that we give up. I certainly not throwing my hands in the air, okay? But it certainly doesn't mean that I become an anarchist and say, oh, to hell with it, right? Just destroy the system. You work with what you got, right? Yes, it's slow. Yes, it's painful. I know, right? But like I said before, it isn't that we're the worst, okay? We're not the worst. So I don't want to give the impression that it's all doom and gloom and the place going to the dark. It's not like that. But we could do better. And our leaders can do better. They didn't have to get cynical and say, why? Because I honestly believe some of them decide, when the people done with you, they're really done with you. So let me do for me. No. I honestly believe some of them are cynical like that. Okay? And it's a shame, really. Right? But what I'm saying is, it's slow. I mean, one of the things about being my age and not young guys like you and Marisha, is that you learn that some things take time. Okay, right? Don't come fast enough when you're 30 and when you're 20 and 30 and even 40. They don't come fast enough, right? But that's life, okay? But things change. If it's one thing, as they normally say, that is constant, is change, right? And so it's not a hopeless. We're not in a hopeless situation, right? And we all can do what we can to improve the situation in each of our own way, right? My way is to talk my head off on talk shows. And by the way, it isn't all politics. You know, I am interested in a lot of other different topics as well. And I do give my opinion on them, right? So it isn't all politics. But we know that politics is one of the easier ways by which you effect rapid change. Okay, so I do emphasize that in my talk, but that is my way, right? DJ Marshall's way might be to have his awareness march. Very good, very good. Okay, you know what one man with a placard can do. Never mind 100. Okay, so that's good, right? I wish you have a really good match on Friday, right? That the kind of awareness that you think that Dr. Alexander think the ordinary people need to have somehow would bubble to the surface, and they'll go out and make their voices and let their feet do the talking for them as well. Okay? All the folks like me, I guess it's rocking chair time, shall we say, right? What else? You are the ones with the energy. You're the ones who might be thinking like me, okay? It's just that you're more impatient, okay? Right? You don't want to accept any BS, no, right? And that's understandable, and that's also needed, right? The youthful, this youthful vigor and demand for change, and I want it now. you know what? I want it now. What? You need you need that. You know, it's too bad that it wasn't followed by the what you call it? What you said? The if I perish movement. If what we have now with the SSZ, that was an ideal opportunity for an if I perish moment too, right? But it wasn't taken advantage of, right? And so what I'm saying is, okay, we're limited into what I know is the tendency of youthful people is to think that the world is mine, I can do all things, and therefore I'm going to do all things. And you find out pretty soon that it's not like that, okay? But you do your little incremental step at a time, right? That little drip still works. It might work for you in your time, but it might work for your grandchildren, right? That is what we have to hope for, right?
Thank you, Brother McMahon. Well, you two, good stalwart of the Federation, your conversation this evening, your presentation, well received, very good conversation. I appreciate it. Two things I want to highlight before I drop my unofficial anthem of our beloved Federation and get out of here is that one of the things that really bothers me very much with our Prime Minister is the fact that we had several conversations about the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, the island of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis. And through that conversation, I heard the Prime Minister made it clear during the inauguration in Warner Park on the 13th of August 2022. I do not know if any of you was at the inauguration. But he said he's the Prime Minister for all, St. Kitts and Nevis. And this Prime Minister see it fit to promise me for months, now years, that he will go across to Nevis and have a town hall that I suggested with the people of Nevis. I should not have to suggest that, but I did. And on this podcast on more than one occasion, he promised that he will. His team is working on it. It's over 3 years, and the Prime Minister is yet to set foot on Nevis to do a town hall 5 minutes across the water. But he's busy trying to build a bridge in South Africa, in Dubai, the Middle East, and wherever else for over 3 years. From what I understand, chartering flight to go to Africa. I have a problem with these things, but serious problem.
And you should.
Serious problem with it.
But you also know why, and it's all part of the disappointment, right? Because the kind of machinations and opportunism that we saw before this government came in, it just continues. That is what you expect a change. In change, you should have renewal, right? And when you get the same kind of backroom deals, and well, I guess they don't smoke, so it won't be smoke-filled rooms. But these kind of
the smoke, some of them smoke the marijuana, some serious smokers, some serious smokers in that cabinet,
Really?
Yeah, man.
That's where dark glass is coming in or something.
Maybe so, but there's some serious ones in there. Okay. So some of them some of them is on meds as well.
I don't want you to get too offensive to me, I don't want you to get offensive to me.
But Alexander, sit in the corner over there, please, sir.
But yeah, I feel the pain in that regard. It doesn't make any sense. You're Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and the thing is, he made the point that of the fact that our Constitution speaks to St. Kitts and Nevis and Nevis,
correct,
right, and not St. Kitts,
correct.
And you'd expect what to follow up from that was, and he also said that, it's like terrible, how his voice drops when right, but yet you think that then you do something about it, right?
Correct.
Well,
this is what we got. It's unfortunate that we cannot discuss everything in the 2 hours, so I'm going to have to leave some stuff. I hope you could make some time to come back, Ira. I know Brother Alexander will make the time. But the other thing I want to comment on before we leave, and I will give some update on that next Wednesday, God spare life, if I don't come here before. But this matter of Reginald Francis and this issues there in the New Guinea area, that is at the height of nonsense for me. Criminality. A government, the way that they treat our citizens in opposed to foreigners, the investment that these gentlemen have put in, and half the story have not been told.
No, so I don't. Was it settled though?
It is not settled, but it's not settled, and that is one of the things we're going to be marching on. The SSZ, the Reggie Francis, the everything that, and anything you could think about, that this government has done, that they campaign and that they did not do. And the hardest part for me, for these people to understand, because people actually believe them. I've been to caucuses with the Labour Party. I've been to their meetings. And if you listen to the Prime Minister speaking to his flocks, I think it's Garfield spoke about it earlier. You spoke about the Jim, what you call the gentleman there in Guyana? The Jim Jones culture. Yeah, the mentality that is the Labour. It's a cult. That is the Labour administration. And they actually follow his lead, knowing that he's lying. And it's unfortunate.
Is it still as bad as that, though?
Worse.
It's worse?
Worse.
Wow.
I've been there. And that's why I had to take a stand. I will not be a part of it. I don't have a problem with Prime Minister Joe personally one-on-one. My issue with him is his lies to the country and what he's doing to our country. One-on-one, we could have a drink. But I'm going to let him know where that part is. I'm not going to settle for less than what we campaign on. We had a mandate. I ran into someone yesterday evening in Ram Supermarket. Someone who had gave me some choice words defending Dr. Joe because I'm talking the things. And I said, good evening and whatever. And the person said to me, wow, I really respect you. I said, what? What is the reason to respect me any different to before? He said, well, after everything I have said about you on social media, I never expect you to speak to me. I said, but I don't have no enemies, Ira. It does not matter who wants to say negative stuff, whether on social media or otherwise, I know myself. So what you say about me does not differentiate who I am. If you come and disrespect me, I'll return the favor, whether privately or publicly, as I see fit. But I'm not going to walk around with any enemies. I give my opinion here and Dwyer's commentary, but Dwyer know my love for him and how much I appreciate him and what he's doing. I speak about Sam and my cousin there, Dr. Martin and Freedom, when they're chatting the nonsense. But I respect them. But I'm not going to stand around and accept them misleading the people and don't say nothing about it. That's not why I'm here.
So you see, Garfield, what you have to deal with, the tribalistic nature of our people. That's hard to overcome, right? Because if that remains, or is getting worse, like what the DJ said,
it was.
It's gonna be a harder fight.
So I'm gonna drop this track for the two of you, brother Garfield. I'm way over time and I gotta run. So let's drop this track for you all. The late great King Ira gonna take us out of here this evening. And brother Ira, I enjoy your education every time I speak to you. I sorry I was one of your students back in the days. I would have been doing a lot better today.
It was good being here, and Garfield.
The King
Would you stand up and see your country dying and never lend a helping hand? Would you see your children's future dwindling, creating much disillusion? Or would we watch on idly, disregarding our self-sufficiency? Building a brand new nation, we'll move on together hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise, the country is yours, all yours, still yours. unification, building a brand new nation. We move on together hand in hand. Rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours. Can your conscience be clear? Indulging corruption or misusing public office, being accused of unemployment and crimes, or disrupting a citizen's peace. Oh, my country in this harmony, separated politically. Hatred for a brother, cannot love each other. No, I say no, potato. Citizens, let's unite and stand up for rights, all our lives and our lives. Let us reintegrate and correct all mistakes. Reunification, building a brand new nation. We'll move on together hand in hand. So rise, citizens, arise. The country is yours, all yours, still yours.
Yes, my good citizens, the country is yours, all yours, still yours. That's the man himself, the late great King Arrow. I want to take this opportunity to big up my good people at the Island Purified Water, Main Street, Newton Ground, St. Kitts. I want to touch the man there, Brother Powell, the man Scatter, and his team for keeping the DJ hydrated when he's in our beloved Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Let's unite and stand up for rights.
It's the Citizens Empowerment Coalition Awareness March on Friday, 26 September. Citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, it's your time. Boots on the streets are required. Let's save our country. Get your placards ready. Gathering at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal on the Bay Road from 2:30 with the march starting from 3 p.m. until 6 p.m. For more information, call 660-0195. So, get ready to hit the streets on Friday, 26 September from 2:30 at the West Bus and Ferry Terminal and be a part of the Citizens Empowerment Coalition Awareness March.
Yes, man, and that's it as we call it evening for this evening, Wednesday, September 24, 2025. Look forward to seeing you next week, same place, same time. Look forward to seeing you at the march and Friday.